All right, welcome back to Journalism Chapter 14. This is part 2. And part 2, we talked about more of the print style and newspaper side of the press last time. Here, we're going into my realm, my part of the industry, more towards the broadcast news style. They talk about the internet as well and how it's changed the industry and coverage and the question of journalism and is it real? Is it how is it different? How has it evolved? How has it changed? And that's what we're going to be talking about now. So let's start going into this now. Okay, so we're going to be difference between print, TV, and internet news. Broadcast news, like I said, I'm very, very familiar with. It is driven by the technology. A lot of the time, yes, we have the stories. We have interesting ways to tell stories. Stories. Been in the newsrooms. We're always looking for stories. So we need the stories to tell, and how do we tell that story as best as possible? And a lot of the times, we do have the technology that is different than the newspaper. And anytime we get we get a new toy, we try to use that new toy in a different way. We see more most recently with drone usage more and more nowadays. You'll especially in when there's natural disasters, floods, you can get a whole other viewpoint with drones. That's why they started having a lot of the people who were photographers at these news stations working with drones and getting drones certified, so they could cover these stories and get shots that you'd never be able to get and be able to tell the story in a different way. Also, a lot of the vehicles that we use. But that's all part of the marketing as well, because you're still dealing with a television station. So part of it's the story. How do we use this new technology to tell stories? Why? To get ratings. So that takes away from the credibility of these news channels and these stations, because they're trying to find new ways to bring in viewers. They're trying to tell a story in a new way with the new technology. And I've done some stories with 360 cameras, so that's a whole other way of telling stories and bringing the story to people as well. But yeah, it's you're still getting the story. You're just trying to use the technology in a different way and to present it in a different way. And part of, like I said, part of it is marketing. Also, part of it is the time stories to fit commercials. We have, when you're going to what are they called, news packages, and that's if you have the full news package. Sometimes they're called VOSATs and they're shorter. But a typical news package is typical news story, what you're used to seeing, with narration and sound bites, and it's wrapped up in about a minute and a half. Those are called news packages. And when you have a certain time limit, so okay, you only have 1:30 you only have 1:30 for your story. You only have 1:30 for that story. You don't have more than that. So because there's certain breaks that you have to hit, and they have blocks in a newscast. So your A block, which is your first block, might be 10 minutes, and all the things that are being aired in that segment before the commercial has got to fit within that 10 minutes. It could be a few seconds short here or there. You still have pad. You think about music and teases and stuff like that, and weather and other aspects. But that first break has got to hit at 10 minutes. Why you have to be boom to black in 10 minutes so they can start doing the commercials. But that's the way it is. It's the way it always has been. You have more flexibility online, where you have other outlets to do more in-depth stories. Sometimes on the more traditional side, we have our feature stories for like what we call sweeps pieces. Sweeps are those 4 times during the year that broadcast stations have. They really keep a track of ratings and who's watching what. That's why you'll find a lot of shows Have cliffhangers then, and big things happen, crossovers happen during that, and the same fits with news as well. That's why you, out of nowhere, you'll see, this special five day edition of a special investigative report on that's been saved usually for sweeps because people want to just like watch that. But yeah, time is essential. If you're going to be in the television news, time is everything. You only have a certain amount of time, and that's the way it works. And it's to be expected to be credible and provide believable imagery. It's part because it's video. You're shooting video. It's got to be the imagery's got to be believable. Can't this isn't really a venue where you're putting or should be putting things like for special effects and stuff like that in this venue because it's news. If people are using that, then you gotta really wonder about the credibility of that place. But yeah, so you're trying to be credible. You try to provide the imagery. You're trying to fill in that time. Time is essential, and there's less of you than ever before. So it's a combination of what you have locally and what you are able to download off the wires and off the feed services that you subscribe to as a local station. That every single television station in this country has. So because they need to be able to fill up that time. So that's why sometimes you'll see national packages or international packages, stories from what you more nationally known anchors and reporters, because they got rights to that footage because they have an agreement as with that service, and every single station has that, and all the major networks have one. So just do know that, and I've actually worked at one of them. So understand that print reporters are a little different. And we report on stories where they occur. Broadcast news also does that. We have to, especially from the local standpoint. You have to be there for it. Sometimes you'll get stories that someone else was shot and done, and you put something together. But for the most part, television, new broadcast news does that as well. So report on the stories where they occur. We do that too. I've been at lots of stories where the news is occurring, or we wouldn't have the footage and the stuff for it. The difference between in TV news, it's time stories to fit commercials. Here, it's cut stories to fit physical space. So you think it goes back to print and the newspaper and how much space they have in the paper as opposed to advertisements, which was more of an issue back in the day. As you know, with less and less advertising now on the print form, they've just gone online. But from a traditional standpoint, they cut their stories to fit a certain space in the newspaper. And then you expect to be detached. You're expected to be detached when you're in broadcast news as well, if you're doing it the right way. Medium doesn't matter, okay? Anybody who thinks, it's print is detached and broadcast news. If they are, they are. It has nothing to do with the format that they're in. It has to do with the philosophy of said media outlet or the corporate aspect of it or something like that. It has nothing to do with the print or broadcast aspect of this whole thing. So that's I'm going to be talking about a couple things that I find inconsistent in what the book says and what is reality. I'm going to give you reality, all right? Because a lot of times some of these authors of books think they have a good idea and they might not have anybody who's actually worked in the media or worked in that form of media, and they do some research on it, but unless you've actually been in it, you're not going to really know. I've been in it, so I know. But yeah, you're expected to be detached on both if you're run right, and yeah, newspaper can easily not be detached. There's plenty of examples around the country with that. Plenty of them, even though it depends on how they're run. Like I said. All right. Some other differences between print, TV, and internet news. The pretty face, happy talk culture. You're seeing David Muir there, anchor of ABC News. Now with television, and this has been an issue for many, many years. Uh, thing is people get older. It happens. We all get older. We don't look as good as when we were like 26, 27 as we are when we're 37 or 47. And it's a very visual medium. And over the years, many, many times, both male and anchors, female anchors definitely get it worse because in the male anchors, and this is sexist, and I don't agree with this at all. They say, oh, they're distinguished, and they don't give the same leeway to women, which is wrong and disgusting. If you're a good journalist and you're a good anchor, and you've proven yourself, and you're a credible member of that team and that community, you keep that. Now, some stations are perfectly fine. I'm from my station up right by me at WGAL and lots of other stations in our market. They've had people at some of these people have been at these stations for years and years and years, and they're marketable commodities, and they've aged and they don't look as good as when they first started. And so they've gained weight, gotten grayer, lost some hair, um, wrinkles, and all things happen to you when you get older. And these people have kept their jobs. Now, but this is in the industry for a whole. Oh yes, very much. You'll find that people are losing their jobs because of the way they look, and they don't look as good. And they have consultants. Oh, we did research, and they said that they didn't like this person anymore. They thought this would be better if they found someone younger to do this, which is very superficial and not very good. Maybe they'll be moved to another position behind the scenes, or maybe a less prominent role on air to maybe a special projects or kind of some kind of thing. But it's all for that very shallow reason because of just the way people look. And it's television. And that attractive half-witted anchor. It exists. I'm not going to say every person who looks nice is a half-wit, but some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of the anchors that I work with are absolutely wonderful human beings, and they get it. And they realize they're part of a team, and they are all here to get a job done. And they realize that what's going on, and some believe the hype, and they know, well, I'm a marketable commodity, and I'm important, and I'm the face on the thing, and they're not good to work with. And some of them aren't the brightest, sharpest tools in the shed, honestly, because they believe the stuff, and people will kowtow to them, just like any job. But definitely in this, because you think about television, I mean, it all depends on the station. It depends on the corporate structure. It depends on the leadership at said station, what they value. But that's that's the case in a lot of places. I worked at Fox News, where some of the anchors are really good, and some of them are like, okay, whatever. They're there because they look nice, or they toe the company line, or toe something, a certain narrative. And same with the other stations I've worked at as well. And it's a bad side of the industry. So it's the reality. Also, happy talk. The banter that goes on. Well, we're just talking about these important, very serious stories, very serious story. And then they try to lighten it up before they go to the tease. The tease is the thing before the break. And then, well, I saw that, wasn't that? Oh, I don't understand that. Oh, and it makes everybody think, oh, they're friendly. We like to be with them. We're bringing them into our homes, and they're buddies, and we can drink a beer with them or soda pop, or just sit down and have some lunch with them, and that's what they're trying to get at. And they've been doing it for years, and they'll continue to do it because we have to fake that we like each other. And sometimes actually the people do like each other. Sometimes you get the right combination of people who are there to do the job, and they actually enjoy being around each other. Some of these people can be around and working at the same desk for 20 years easily, and actually become friends. And sometimes they just can't stand each other, but they still put on a good act. They know when those cameras are on, and then it's good. And once again, it comes down to that specific station, the specific personalities of that station. But they a long time ago they figured, they want people to enjoy enjoy what's going on, and that they're trusted, and that's part of it. Um, so to understand that. Also, sound bites. I can't tell you how many sound bites I have cut in my time just as sound bites, as what are called VOSOTs within news packages. The soundbite, as when I first started in 1995, right out of college, was about 15 seconds long on average. And now it's probably about 8. When we used to joke about, what am I supposed to do with an 8-second soundbite? I don't know. And now people just do 8 seconds, and you're not getting anything out of it. The coverage is worse. It's far worse than it's ever been. On many different levels, and the fact that you have 8-second sound bites most of the time, um, it takes away from the overall product for the journalism. Because yeah, we're supposed to entertain, but we're supposed to be informing, and there's a lot of aspects of this industry from corporate standpoint and just technologically and the rat race of everyday work, and that just seems to chip away, make the job harder and harder and harder and harder. So if you know how to do it, you're really, really good at what you do. Right? It's hard to do when you're learning, and when you're in it, it absolutely stinks. At times, sometimes it's fine, but it's like especially when you're first starting to learn, you get thrown into the fire, and you really learn a lot, and then you realize it helps you. It helps you become better. It makes you more well-rounded. It proves that you prove to yourself what you never thought you could do, that you can, and lots of other things that you thought were tough before aren't so much anymore, because you're pushed to a limit that you never thought you could reach. And you'll find that with a lot of different aspects of this. But yeah, the soundbite, and that is the equivalent when you talk about quotes in newspaper articles. It's the same thing. How do you use them? Are you being responsible with those sound bites, and when you're telling a story, are those sound bites or those quotes complementing and completing that story? That's part of what we do. Are they being taken in context, or are they intentionally being manipulated to show a certain point of view, or want the people to think a certain way? Because that's done too. I've thought about that quite a bit in all the places I've worked. I'm like, this isn't representative of what that you're doing. And what are you, a Boy Scout? I'm like, it's the right way to do it. You're taking it out of context. And I got at all the places I worked, I got that. But it's become focus of a lot of criticism for all these reasons, and rightfully so. Well, that's why you're here. You're here to learn about this, because most people aren't going to understand. Because they watch I watch TV. I read my things. I read my newspaper, or on the web, or on your phone, or whatever. They don't get it. They're passive. They're passive consumers of all this, and we're creating. We're the ones getting the stories, and we're the ones who are responsible for that. And for a litany of reasons, it's gone downhill dramatically. And that's just a whole other class in itself to talk about. But yeah, and it has. It deserves that criticism on where we've gone to. And I'm scared to see where it's going next. All right. And then, of course, there's, as you've seen, the talking heads, politics. I hate politics. Around it for all that time. For the record, I'm independent. I don't usually talk about that, but I've always been independent. I always thought that fit well in, even before I was actually in news. I've always been independent, because I'm not a checklist type of person. I don't I look at the situation, and then some things I'll agree with you, some things I'll disagree with you. I don't have a list of who I'm supposed to be. I look at the issue, and then I'm like, all right, yes or no, or maybe, hey, here's a concept. I might actually have a different idea. I know, shocker. Should only be one of two ways of thinking, which is preposterous to me. But anyway, from a news standpoint, and pundits and talking heads and politics, now that's all we seem to have on all the different cable news networks, which has further exasperated the problem. And it's because why? And it's 24/7. First started with CNN, and they were the only one in town because they went 24/7 in the early 80s, and then because prior to that, people would just go wait till they had local news, but like the national network news was 6:30, and there's still 6:30 NBC, ABC, NBC national news, which has gone downhill, and lost influence because of all these other different places to get news today, especially with the web and all that. But now the talking heads, it is cheaper. It's cheaper to just bring in someone. We're going to talk about this issue or that issue, and it's always someone who's got a political standpoint or viewpoint on it. You can tell a little bit better on who's representing it some more. If you really analyze, it's on how the interviews are staged, who they have. Is it just a parade of the same political thought one after another? Do they have combined interviews with different viewpoints at the same time, or do they at least go back to back with one viewpoint interview maybe at one point and then back, and the next interview they have right after that is the opposing interview? They all take a different angle with what they do it, and they've gone completely off another niche. We've got what they call partisan programming. Fox News, conservative, liberal, MSNBC, and yes, CNN. Your book and this said that CNN is moderate and middle of the road. No. At one point they used to be somewhat, but now they're not. They've proven they're right there with MSNBC now. And you'll find it's a lot of the major networks, though they on broadcast, because MSNBC, NBC, there's no difference. One has an M before it and is on cable, while the NBC is on the broadcast. So it's basically become one and the same. CBS, ABC, they have their issues with corporate aspects with Universal and Disney and the way they've decided to cover things, and though they won't ever say it and they still try to hide it somewhat, but you can see in what they do and who they hire, such as like ABC I've talked about this before with George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America. He was the Clinton in charge of, he was the spokesperson, and then he was also a part of their main strategies and has been a long-time ally for them. And like I said, my problem isn't with him being hired by the network, because having that kind of position, you deserve some sort of position, but more as a political analyst or hosting a political show, not as Good Morning America news anchor. And you may say, it's a morning show, but it still lends some sort of journalistic credibility, even though it isn't a morning show. That the host should have some sort of journalism aspect to them as the main host. I know, and I have no problem with Robin Roberts. She worked her way up. She was a journalist. Yes, she was a sports figure before that, but she went back and she cut her teeth and worked her way up after her playing career, and then she worked hard as a reporter. So I don't have a problem with her being one of the hosts in that way. So it's different, and we're talking about talking heads, and these people make me feel fuzzy about the way I feel, and this reinforces who I am. That's not what news is supposed to be, and that's what this is. It's all it is creating more tension, more hatred, more division, and basically propaganda. It's propaganda. It stops being news, just starts being blatant propaganda, and that's what is that? we as future, those who want to go into journalism have to take it back. And is it hard? Yeah, it's really hard. But if enough of you just think that way, um, you will eventually get to a point in power, and you'll be able to make the change. Or if you just go and fall in line with what they do, and just know what you're doing is hurting and just further dividing. And a lot of people don't want to think about that, and maybe they should. It's really tough when you're in there. You have a job and you're trying to just do that job as best you can, and you try to bring it up as much as you can. And sometimes people look at you strange and call you a Boy Scout, in my case. And but there's a certain way of doing it. And I'm at least trying to get it into your heads now, trying to be impartial and taking journalism back, getting that viewpoint out, because then you're nothing more propagandists. That's what a lot of these cable networks have become. Okay, we're talking about convergence enhances and changes journalism. And the convergence is the combining of all the different technologies and all the different venues of how it's changed the role of what journalist is. Now we have to update, break news constantly and instantly at this 24/7 breakneck speed. And you got to do it. And if you work for a TV station, and even online, you've got to have a lot of different skills. But obviously, you have to know how to write up almost like a newspaper article, because if you're talking about the internet, you have that. Then you have to know how to shoot well and conduct an interview, and because it's online, and lots of times we have video, and you have to know how to do all the things television people knew how to do, and TV people have to know how to do print stuff and social media and do the web stuff. And it's so much information, so much, and you're not getting paid anymore. That's the worst part. You have all these other skills, and you're not getting paid anymore. And that's something else it also talked about, is the disparity of what people in the journalism industry and PR get, and you have a whole lot more. No offense to those people in PR, but you have asked to do a whole heck of a lot more things in a given day in a journalism setting, and having a lot more skills than in a PR setting. PRs, a lot of times you can get away with not having certain technical skills because someone else is there to do it there, and they have no problem with paying the extra person. In the journalism side, they're very well known for cutting corners at all costs, and then you're forced to do it, so that makes things more frustrating as well. Other aspects, email interviews, and when you think from an electronic standpoint, it's easy when you're incorporating questions. They can copy and paste them in there very easily, but then there's not the whole aspect of the face-to-face interview and the interactions and listening to people and picking up on things. And I've done lots of interviews, and I can tell you that exists, is when you're talking to people and picking up on non-verbal tics or things within a given interview, and seeing what they say and being able to build up on that. And there's something about that, being able to have that interview right with them, and you're not getting with email interviews. So missing out things, and then they're able to better polish their message, as opposed to a face-to-face interview when they don't have that luxury as much to do that. And then there's lots of times when you don't want to be called for plagiarism, but there's so many things online that you might be copying other people's work and you're not even doing it, or you're not attributing it, because you might have not even known it was there. You didn't even realize someone else did that, or said something like that. And so that's another aspect when dealing in this. So there's enough problems and issues before when trying to make sure you're being above board, and now you might be not even realize you're doing it, and you get in trouble for it. So that's a whole other added aspect with dealing with the web and being a reporter. And like I said, you have all these different. You must meet the demands Convergence has made on reporting. You have to know how to do all these different things. What used to be just getting the story is all these other things. and social media and all that, and knowing all this technical stuff. And it's cheaper to hire one person to do five things than it is to do five people to do one thing. And technology has made that happen. And unfortunately, people, the workforce has gone down, and newspapers for sure are being cut down, but so are TV newsrooms, and now we have less people to cover things, and though there's still the same stories, same things are going on, and then you take corporate things and bias in general, and how many stories are getting lost because of all these different reasons, and what are you not being told? What are you not learning? How are you not being able to make the correct decisions of what you're seeing? And this is it's hurting you. It's hurting all of us. It's hurting our future. Because we're not getting proper information because of a multitude of reasons, and that should piss people off. That should make people angry. How are you supposed to make a decision? Well, I heard this real quick, and this person entailed this, and I don't really have time for this. And see, that's the funniest part. You have all this information, but nobody has time to take in the information, or the proper stories aren't being told because they've cut so many people, and they're not able to tell the stories because so few people are doing 17 different things at the same time. They're still getting it out. But is it out? But what stories are they telling? Is there bias involved? Is there an intent for some reason? What messages are getting? It makes it so much harder to be informed. And people think they're informed because they have a whole lot of stuff, but they get a whole lot of garbage. What good is that stuff that you're getting? Well, it's not good quality information, and it's not people not doing their job the way they should be. Let's say not everybody's doing everything, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. You find a lot of hardworking people working in the same boat, and I was one of them too. And we're just trying to find our way through each day, trying to get the stories and trying to do a good job. But there's so many other things that are on top of your plate, and other things that make it harder, and are the filtering things through, and what's this person doing, and what's that station doing, and there's so many things. It's I can't just talk about it in this one lecture. There's too much. It's enormous. It would just be so much for you to fathom, and people don't want to hear about it. It's too much. It's too much. My head hurts. I don't want to think about that. La 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 la. Go away. It doesn't help. And then you're still in the same boat because you're not learning anything, and you're not able to make the right decisions. Okay, the power of visual language. The visual imagery, television, news, internet, it obviously does. I mean, you've got the pictures, still pictures or video. Heck, it also, like I said, 360 video. I've done 360 stories where you're actually, if you have the goggles, VR goggles, it gives you a point where you're actually within that story. You're in that room. You're at that event, and you're walking around and you're looking around and seeing what you decide to focus on, as opposed to the video editor and photographer, or probably usually the same person, decide, okay, you want to see this picture or that picture. With 360, you're in a certain area. There's a limit to what, they're still deciding what shot, but you're deciding what part of that shot. So you're able to look around from a 360 standpoint and kind of get a view of what you're really seeing and what you decide to. So that's changed it as well. And with the internet, I mean, it's just a whole other venue as opposed to that hour-long TV show. They're constantly updating, and they're constantly putting stuff in there for pictures and videos and links and whatever the case may be. And then now you got social media with Facebook Live and Twitter and all sorts of other live components, and it totally changes to now you have live capabilities. It was just limited very much just to professional television broadcast, and it was just microwave or satellite. Now you've got your cell phone makes you the ability to go live, and there's other technologies as well. But so it's totally changed it, and it's all visual. Right? But yeah, it's catching up on stories, things, breaking news constantly happening. It used to be you'd have to wait till the next day for the newspaper. Now you don't have to. And then the problem is overexposure. You've already seen it like 17 times before the next day. Oh, I saw it, and it's only how that video only lasts for so long until you find your next thing, and there you go with attention spans, because that's just further making issues hard with telling stories because nobody has an attention span because of all this just hyper glut of information and what news is good and what news isn't and what's fake and what's actually good news or who's trying to shade news a certain way or another, which is wrong and shouldn't be done. But we live in reality, and these are all aspects and things that make the job so much more difficult. And it's already a Herculean job just to try to get something out, but now you have all these other things that make it harder, and you're not getting paid all that much. That's the worst part. If you got paid a decent amount, and it goes up, don't get me wrong, I got paid more at Fox News as I did the other places because it was higher level, but the cost of living was more. It's still a tough job to do every day, but you can work your way up. But it's still, on average, so you don't really benefit from cash wise. Doesn't usually pay that much in relation to other jobs, especially jobs where their whole point is shaping a narrative and not necessarily being real, as opposed to we're supposed to, in journalism, tell the real story. And I've just got a whole diatribe about how things aren't necessarily the way it's supposed to be. So that's another aspect. I start talking about public journalism and how they've affected, especially anything from a technology standpoint, and like I said, with social media and everybody having phones and cameras and things like that has changed it. But also, it's a whole new source for places, journalistic places, TV, internet, newspapers, print, stuff like that, and because they're always looking for stories, and they're realizing that people have stories, and in some ways it has good value because you're improving your pool, but then there's the whole other aspect is that a lot of them are not professionally trained and know the rules, so that's been another aspect of what is news, what isn't news, what are you getting, what information you're getting, what is proven that you can prove, because for many years, and which should still be the case, what do the facts show, and you're getting people in some cases that don't care about those, but you're still trying to interact with the people and trying to get stories from them. So there are good sides to it, there are bad sides to it, and trying to be fair-minded. And these people in the public necessarily aren't fair-minded. For the most part, people have their specific ideas, however, viewpoints, and that makes another aspect. They may not necessarily care about what is the right way to cover certain things from a journalistic standpoint. Describing what is going wrong to imagining what going right would be like. Imagining, I mean, putting that out there, that starts talking about advocacy, and there are places for that. It depends. Once again, I think it depends on the venue and where you're putting that. What's the venue for that? If it's part of the regular mainstream reporting, then no. But if it's someplace else, then it might have its place and spot. And I think that's part of the problem. And they don't know necessarily where to put them. Where do you blur the line of journalists and the public and viewpoints and advocacy? And so this is yet another aspect that's clouded what journalism is, and it's sad. Well, we know what journalism is, but it's become just so much, and nobody. That's why we have fake news. People don't like calling it, like, don't do it. It's You get caught. A lot of times the problem is people get caught up in the job, and the job is stressful, and you're on the road every day, and you're busting your hump. You're running here, there, and everywhere, just trying to get the stories that you're supposed to be getting in a certain amount of time, and you're trying to do the best job you can. But lots of times, you just and you might miss things that you get to a point. I don't care because it's very, very stressful. You're not getting paid a whole lot, and you're being asked to do a Herculean amount of work. And you can see from a human standpoint how that could wear on people for the long haul. And then seeing people as consumers, to seeing them as public, and they're all seen as consumers because they're consuming the media that you're producing, the news that you're producing, and they are your viewer or your reader, and the whole thought is to be audience centric. What's important to that given area? What people in Boise, Idaho will be interested in from a news standpoint will be different than Detroit, Michigan. It just, they have different wants and needs and concerns going on in the different areas, and so you have to be audience centric. And then, so that comes down to it. So it's so complicated. There's so many factors. I'm sorry, I can't just give you too little. Oh, here's a reason, and woof! Yay! It's all figured out. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. Sorry. It's reality. Life is not like that. I wish it was, but it's not. It's something you have to deal with. Period. Hopefully, you make the right decision. Keep going. Public journalism. It's imagined as a conversational model for journalists talking about things, which is okay. But it says, and it has, like I said, it has its place, but there's lots of fights with, are you taking away from that media outlet if you put too much into it? It's and where you place it, and it's about where you play it. And there's certain things like editorial control, credibility of that media outlet, balance, and diverse views. If you're doing that with this public journalism, there's not going to be that many people who are going to be into it, and then you're probably going to get the same viewpoints. And who are these people? And you're getting a diverse amount of views, so it goes by balance, and it kind of takes away. I mean, does it have its place? Yeah, I do think it has its place, but where it should be shared. I'm all for free speech, and I'm all for that, and have venues, but where does it have its place in a traditional media outlet? Because in a traditional media outlet, people have certain expectations, and and you need that objectivity, you need that credibility, or then you're just not a journalism outfit. You're, like I said, a propaganda machine, and that's not what any of us should be really working for or towards if that's what you want to do. And fake news and satiric journalism. I think if you would say, from what I've said in the past, I have some definite views on this. Yeah, they do appeal to cynical viewers, and they should. I mean, the news format is it is very formulaic. It is goofy. It is corny. But I mean, it has its form. It's what people expect, and it's and a lot of times what they do is they make fun of the news of the day. People are showing it, and a lot of that's fair game. But part of the problem is a lot of times these shows and people use them as actual news. And I read some stuff in there. It's like, oh, people felt they were more completely informed on what they're like, but they're not. It's very much a partisan show. They say, oh, we're satiric. Okay, you're satiric, but the problem is people use you as a real form of news, and that's not going to get you because they're just basically propaganda, funny propaganda. Are they? Oh yeah, they're entertaining, and is it some of the stuff they talk about? Yeah, and it deserves to be laughed at, and I have no problem with that. But the problem is people actually use this as a source for news, and it is very obvious who they like and what they like. Yeah, they might occasionally take a swipe at people they traditionally like, because it was just so ridiculous and over the top that they couldn't ignore that. But 9 times out of 10, you know who they vote for, you know what they like, they know how they feel, and they become nothing more than just another outlet for a certain side. And that's the problem. And people consider it real, and oh, I'm getting it. No, you're getting very, very. It's propaganda. It's funny propaganda. Is it humorous? Sure. I mean, I think part of that also is, I mean, so Stephen Colbert is now, yeah, he used to make fun of O'Reilly. O'Reilly had him on his show. I remember when he came on his show, he tried to steal the microwave. It's a true story. He came on, yeah, Stephen Colbert tried to steal the microwave. He wanted to take the microwave. I don't know, because he's trying to be funny and goofy, and he would call him like Papa Bear, Bill O'Reilly, Papa Bear, because he knew, and O'Reilly knew he was just spoofing on the show. But now he's on late night television, which isn't a political show. I know, believe it or not, stuff like Jimmy Kimmel and The Tonight Show and Stephen Colbert, which was and like these late night 11:30 talk shows, have always been there, but now all of them have become so massively partisanly political. It's just another like Daily Show or Colbert with some music and actors and movie star people and TV stars too. But it always goes down to it's always political. Believe it or not, they're not supposed to be designed to be political shows. Has political satire and jokes been done in there? Have they always had politicians on these shows? Yeah, but not to the extent that they do it today. It's become just another political show with every joke that they make is political, and you know who they're going to make fun of, and you know who they're going to prop up. And it's so, once again, hyper political. Oh, but we like what they have to say. But that's not what the show is designed for. It's designed for multiple different aspects of human life, and it's only gone mostly political now. And that's the problem. My house, this isn't funny anymore. It's like I want to watch other things and talk about it, but it always breaks down to that one thing now. And believe it or not, they're not supposed to be. The whole bulk of it isn't supposed to be political. It always have its part? Yes, it always had its part, but it's just been dominated by that now. And so you see that, and you'll see a lot of the guests that they have are politicians. They've always had that, but now it's not even remotely there, or even it's just another outlet, just another political outlet. So it's something you can think about. I know some of you, I've never seen it any other way, but hyper political. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it wasn't nearly this bad. They had other things. So something to think about. Once again, another outlet. Putting stuff out there and affecting minds. And it's that's part of it. Democracy and reimaging journalism's role. And they talk about social responsibility, and there is some sort of social responsibility there. We have to try and be we're creative, but we have to be objective to a point. Look at the story, see what's going on, telling people what's going on, and what are you going to do about it? That's what journalism is supposed to talk about. All right, what are the consequences of finding out this story? Be it either it could be the local political office like a mayor, or it could be some corporate thing that's hurting people, or either health-wise or economically, or some car dealership or whatever the case be. And these are all fair game stories because we're supposed to be protecting the public. But then there's the point where you draw that line, where you're trying to shape an agenda. I will never ever think that what we do should be shaping an agenda. The whole shape of shaping is not the agenda itself, but telling people what's going on with those who are in power, either from a political standpoint or business standpoint or in the area, what they're doing. And this is this is the truth, and what are you as the voting public and these public servants or the law or whatever the case may be? Okay, we're finding the stories and trying to keep people, keep who are in power, make sure they're being held to account for the oaths of office that they swear they're going to take because of the sacred trust. Us shaping agendas is not what our job is. It never has been. It never should be. I mean, there are times when something extreme happens and people need information about certain things. Yeah, sure, of course, something happens. But to add, we have to shape people's minds. We're not here to shape minds. We're not here to. We're here to tell people what's going on. What do you want to do about it? That's what we're supposed to be doing, and give them a clear picture, not biased pictures, not politically motivated pictures, or this is the corporate feeling of our company above us, so we have to make sure we focus on these people, make these people look bad or make these people look good, and take things out of context and keep pushing the drum of this person's good or that person's bad. Follow Yellow Brick Road. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be revealing stories of what's going on around us. Do stories that could be entertaining, interesting, stuff like that. Because there's so many different types of stories. We should not be shaping how people think, and that's where I have a major problem. There's a lot of things within this book that I have just bit my tongue about, but this is something I've been through a lot, and I've been in the industry for a long time. I'm sorry to say that a lot of us has become that way. If you want to go into this industry for those reasons, then you shouldn't be becoming a journalist, because that's not the point of what we do. Because then you're just a propagandist. We don't need more people lying to the public. So it's they think a certain way, because that's just better. What if you're wrong? What if you've been fooled? Here's the concept, because that you'll find a lot of people in the industry think, "Oh, I'm too smart. I'm in this industry. I'm too smart to fall for such things." Something to be said for the people who are behind and they're watching and paying attention to everything going on and seeing how people act. And you'll find a lot of people in this industry in the journalism side, are very opinionated. A lot of them go into politics, which makes me say, why the heck were you in journalism to begin with? Was it just a way to pad your way into that position, to try and tell a story, to manipulate people? Because that's not what our job is supposed to be. It's to keep people in power, not rise to power because of it. If without a good loyal journal, when I mean loyal to being for the state journalism, where you're keeping people to power, freedom cannot hope to stand if we don't do our job. And it's going further and further away. Right? That's something you got to think about. I'm going to do my best to try to get you at least in the right direction. Just asking to be fair and care about the truth. That's what care about the truth and what's going on around you, because the people need to know what's going on, or it's all gone. It's lost. If you don't believe that, look at what's going on right now. Things that you never thought would happen are happening. Now, I understand. I'm not saying anything about that, but what's going on is crazy and stuff. But look how quickly it changed. Things changed. The world changed overnight. And that was because of that. So think about it. Open your eyes. That's all I ask. It's about being honest and true, and to the if you're going to be doing this whole journalism thing. All right. That's about it. That's all I got. And hopefully this does something for you. And we're almost done. We are almost done. 2 more lectures. Okay? Thanks. Bye.